Okay. Does it say that we're live on your page? Yes, we're live. Oh, welcome y'all to our second Freedom Friday. We're really excited to be here with you all. For those of you who are here live, or those of you who are watching afterwards, Steph and I are really excited to be with you. We created this series as part of the journey that the Sojourn is taking. So leading up to the Sojourn, we have these conversations where we're talking about freedom and liberation and some of the principles that we're designing with. And then I'm Alli, I forgot that part. I'm the founder of the Equity Practice, and I help people learn to be in solidarity with each other in a variety of ways. But in a nutshell, that's what I do. I'll pass it over to Steph.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I am Steph Zhong, and I am the creator of a program called Own Your Message, which helps visionaries and world makers who don't fit the mold be able to own their story, their identity, develop their own lane of leadership, and be able to create greater impact for themselves and others from their true self so that everybody can thrive.
Woohoo! So let's get into it, Steph. Are you ready? This one is about our ancestors and our lineage, and because a lot of what the Sojourn came from was this story of the Maroon community. So Trisha Hershey of the Myatt ministry told the story about slave ship lands in Virginia, and some of the people left off the slave ship and ran into the hills and created this whole community that was sort of the opposite of what was available in slavery, which is when you think about slavery being a place where people their culture is stripped from them, they're very vulnerable, they're not well cared for. These communities were created and had intentional protection, care, and the maintenance of their cultural practices. So a lot of the cultural practices that I know for a lot of Black Americans come from some of these Maroon communities that were passed down. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and this is, I was so inspired when Alli first introduced me to Maroon communities and her work around realizing that many of our ancestors, regardless of color, have also found ways to thrive through the ages despite oppressive systems around them. And so and when I think about it in terms of how can that be useful for us today, it is really about the fact that all of us, if you're joining us here, and if you are folks who are in our communities already, we know that you are here wanting to create the worlds that serve everyone, right? That are people-centered, that are equitable. And meanwhile, a lot of the tools and frameworks that we are seeking seem very future-focused. And one of the things that Alli and her thought leadership that's inspired me is the idea that there are perhaps generative blueprints, ideas, and even systemic things that communities like the Maroon communities that came over that can really teach us, give us resources and new ways of actually imagining without having to look so far beyond us, that can actually fortify our identities as well as support creating true systems and communities of care. And so if you have been a leader or a change maker or a creator that has had a heart for social change but has been feeling really challenged in these times, we hope that when you come away from today's conversation, that you're going to feel more hopeful, more generative, more connected to these resources in your own identity in ways that can really fortify you and strengthen you and help you be more transformative for yourself and others. And so with that in mind, would love to, we have 3 questions that we're really inviting us to deep dive into, to just start to explore those possibilities. And so Alli, you know, my first question I wanted to share was with you first in terms of why, like, how do you see us? And this is for everybody, but Alli and I will kick this off from our own experience. How are you and we connected to our own ancestors, our own lineages, and how has in America, we do in the American context specifically, how has racial identity played a factor in that connection and or lost connection, teaser?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I am connected to my ancestors mainly through my family line. Like I think when I think about ancestors and lineage, it can be the people who you're blood related to, but it also can be people who you're not blood related to, but you have like a real affinity for or are inspired by, or people from the past that you like to learn from. I think that those can be our ancestors too. Because like if we go far and back, we're all related to the first human, right?
Yep.
So they are our relatives. And so I think about like whenever I remember when I was working as a COO, I had something really bad happen at work. My boss at the time was screaming and yelling at me. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to quit. And I called on my ancestors to like, help, you know, can you give me guidance here of what I should do? Because I realized that what happened to me in that environment was not just about that environment. It was going to exist wherever I worked. And so the message I got from my ancestors was I had to learn to restore myself and then learn how to restore other people. And that started the journey on restorative practice and all the things that I do, which is about, you know, creating that, learning how to be in solidarity, right? So that you repair things. Like being able to repair is a big part of being in solidarity. I think racial identity, what's fascinating in the US is like, whiteness isn't a thing, or whiteness was created. It's like race isn't it's a social construct. Right. It isn't actually a thing. It's like, you know, we know blue eyes and brown eyes and red hair and blonde hair are all traits, right? Well, so is our skin color and what our noses look like and our eye shape and all the things that we think separate us. We're all human beings, but we just have different traits. Well, when around the time that the transatlantic slave trade started, the Portuguese actually created this concept of race and created a hierarchy of race so that they could justify subjugating particularly Native folks and then also the black people that they were stealing from Africa. And so if you see someone as subhuman, then you can justify extracting from them. And so whiteness itself grew over time. So like in the beginning, it was like English people, Scottish, and then as people came in the beginning of the country, actually like a lot of poor white people, what would become white people, were indentured servants. And then there were these uprisings where the white people and the indigenous people, the black people would all fight against the plantation owners. So they admitted the poor whites into whiteness and gave them more rights and status so that they see themselves as separate. And I think that to get access to that whiteness, that generic whiteness, you give up. One of the things you give up is your connection to your lineage. So you're no longer Irish or Italian or Scottish, you are white. And white is sort of like undefined because it's supposed to be the norm and the standard. So everybody knows what that is. But then you're disconnected from who you are. And when I think about people who do seem to have more connection, they tend to be people of color because we didn't have to give up our connection to our lineage. Now there is like, you know, ways that we're taught that we're less than, but and that's how we're disconnected, but we're still like the line is still there. That's what I've noticed. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I heard you say that I really just think about is when, you know, that I agree, first of all, that race and colorism is that social construct. It didn't exist. It's very unique to certain countries. I have a lot of my relatives who immigrated to Canada, and I know that some of my teachers, when they came here, it was like race was not actually discussed in Canada. Like it's not a concept that they work around. And I think that the thing about creating race or racializing people into colors and a hierarchy of, human value, personally, and I know you and I've had conversations around this. It's like, how does it affect us as individuals? For me, and one thing you and I shared, even if our ancestral histories are different in relationship to colonialism, and definitely there was oppression in different ways. It was a source of shame that I didn't even realize that sometimes I did realize, right? Like if people are teasing you, bullying you, calling you out on your racial inferiority on some level, then at a very young age, like I was taught that, I just tried to be as American as possible, quote, American as possible. And the idea of carrying those seeds of shame in a way that end up, and then the thing that we're taught societally, right? Like when we're taught to code switch and present and act, speak white, right? Speak white in an upper class, white, educated sort of way, to present a certain kind of leadership archetype, and to mold ourselves will help us be able to have that mobility. But the cost of that is we are disconnecting and disassociating from parts of us. And not just that, not just like leaving them at home or whatever, but knowing that those moments of identity switching is also, for me, I've come to realize it's almost like a psychic form of self-abandonment. And over time, what happens is, as a leader, I started becoming more obsessed about my performance, my results, my actions, and then less around like who I am, what do I bring to the table? And I think another example, and we all, I think then society is sort of deprived of that because, in my household, and I know also with anyone who's a recent immigrant, right? So if you're of any color, I think has a little bit more connection to their ancestor. If you're multilingual and somehow that was seen as, like a defect of some kind. In fact, actually, it's a tremendously valuable, marketable skill to be able to multiple languages, right? And even when I think about Americans racialized as white who might have been here a long time, there's in Europe once upon a time also, right? Like,
exactly.
Had these different gifts and ritual, and we lose out on our cultural pride. We lose out on and we lose out on our ability to be more rooted in who we are when we start focusing more on managing the racial dynamics every single day. Without that, I think it's really not, I mean, exhausting is probably the mildest term. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what those trade-offs are for, for folks too, right? Like,
yeah, I feel like I really resonated with me what you said about abandonment of self, because when you think about it, the things we abandon are the things that other us, right? And so for Black people, like, I'm Black, you know what I mean? Like I am clearly another, but it's like you said, the things that make you different, and often the assets or the strengths or the cultural norms that make, oh, this person's not like the norm, are the things that we let go of. So like you said, I had this colleague that said, like, he was embarrassed that he spoke Spanish at home. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You speak 2 languages. How did we get to a place where the people who speak one and only one are like superior
Right.
to those that speak multiple ones?
Yeah.
And then, or food, like I've heard from some of my friends, like if they have a lunch and it smells different, that they're embarrassed by that. But like, hello, that's because there's seasoning in that. You know what I mean? Like it probably tastes really good, but we're taught that things that are different are inferior, and that is part of the ways that the systems of oppression are maintained. Is like that continuing, that hierarchy is made up, continues, especially when we abandon ourselves, because we're trying to like move up and get as close to the top as we can, and we abandon ourselves to do that. But there's so much power if we don't do that. You know?
Yes. I mean, it gets back to what I put in the chat about, you shared from your own experience, learning you had to restore yourself. Really start doing meaningful, sustainable work in restoring other people. And that I feel that the reviving or finding, in some cases, because history has been institutionalized in our education system, so there's so many missing links, missing pieces, right? Hidden figures. We know that if we that are there for us to be able to help restore us, to see those connections, to stand up and then be able to reclaim the value of all these different pieces that we have, and that can be contributed in a way that really does benefit, all people, instead of and I hear this a lot, like people realizing this homogenized plain, you use the phrase plain vanilla, right? It's like kind of moving us into, if there's like one way, everyone's diluting themselves, abandoning themselves, and then starting to question themselves because we don't fully know ourselves, to then be able to, be rooted and strong and creative, right? Instead of spending a lot of time trying to survive, even at the higher, at these so-called higher levels of success. Like, one should be able to relax, and you learn that you don't.
Yeah. It's so fascinating too, because like when we try and become vanilla, one thing I've learned, is like you actually can't do that. Like it's actually not available to you. And I think when I figured that out, I was like, oh, because the bar always keeps moving. We made it's like I try and like change my voice and my tone, and I change my face and all these things, but the bar moves every time because I can't be vanilla. There's nothing about me that's vanilla. So it's like, once I figured that out, I was like, well, I'm not going to play your game anymore. Like, I'm going to leave my face as it is. I'm going to not worry about my tone or like the words that I use. It's just different. And like, I mean, we need like butter pecan and strawberry ice cream and all the different like mint. I think it's important to have all that flavor.
Yeah. I mean, I think the same way. When we look around our entire existence, we actually navigate towards diversity. We prefer it. Life is better, whether it's flowers, whether it's food. And nature is literally showing us all the different kinds of fish under the sea. And that, in fact, that is what we're depriving ourselves of within ourselves first, because of the internalized piece. And then beyond. And I have noticed that in the coalition work I've done, that usually it starts with things like food that open at a diverse table, that starts getting people to expand themselves into curiosity about other people and seeing all of these rich, different, aspects and things, and that it actually starts to melt some of the biases, and then people start to discover and go into themselves. And so I do feel like it's like our appetite is truly there. It's just the systems that have led us to believe that in order to survive, you've got this one way. And
Right.
here to, and I think as we're watching systems, kind of come into play here, this is the right time,
Yeah.
for us to really explore the third way and the more that we all have available to each other. So yeah. So with that, like, let's talk about what's the next question we wanted
Yeah,
to
it's such a great segue when you're talking about all the richness and like food. Like I love talking about food because it's like an embodied way to experience the world. But as you were talking about like the richness, it made me wonder about history and how we can look to history as a place for that richness versus focus. A lot of times it feels like we need to focus on the wounds and healing the wounds, which we absolutely need to do. Reparations are owed to many communities, but definitely owed to Black people in America and definitely owed to Indigenous people. But our histories are so much more rich than that. So what are some of the reasons that you think about that?
I really love this generative approach to looking to history for solutions to create our new futures, just to be sitting with that and just inviting people to sit into that. So for me, I think, like, for an example, when you were just talking about reparations, one part of my ancestry, which is Japanese, right? The incarceration of Japanese Americans in this country, anyone of descent, including babies that were literally adopted by non-Asian families, were literally stripped and put in prison with fire, rifles pointed at them. And they did create a society within there too, which I've learned a lot about in walking through the camps. But also, it took them time to find some reparations, which getting reparations in the 80s and learning here in Philadelphia, where I'm involved in reparations for Black folks, and specifically around the University of Pennsylvania area. So I have a petition if anyone wants to sign of, if you want to make a real difference in the Black bottom community there. But one thing that I found interesting when you're talking about looking back is that a lot of the folks doing reparations work here, Black reparations, have been engaged with the Japanese Americans, looking at how they ended up, like, what are those ways of building that politically, when they had like no political visibility and no political power, and all the history books are hiding, that this is even not even a known historic reality that to this day is part of the reason why we, like, even the Supreme Court cases that were brought up there have direct impact for our current government to be able to incarcerate anyone they want to on the basis of, military fear or whatever. So that's more of a political example, but I find that there's just so much, like I said, there has been always resistance and a desire to care, to change things throughout life in our DNA, and every cultural group has had it, that in looking at history and solutions what people have done personally at a communal level and beyond, the Underground Railroad, which is an example we're going to deep dive into. It is pretty remarkable. You start to realize how remarkable the people you came from are. You also start to see that we don't have to create something from scratch.
Right.
And so the one thing I'll say is, like, kind of the seed for how you and I, Alli, have talked about reclaiming history and reclaiming identities and finding these systems and like designs of care that people found under oppression is incredibly I mean, that is like remarkable creativity. That is innovation that we can absolutely build off of. Like they've passed it on to us, you know,
Yeah.
we witness and learn from it. And the last thing I'll just share personally around this is that I have a set of great grandparents who I don't know their names because of war, because of imperialism and so on. But my great grandparents, one was Japanese and one was Chinese. And there's been so much intergenerational violence for hundreds of years between two countries. And I used to feel, and one of the things I've realized that they did, and that my parents did as well too, is they were both seen as these mixed marriages. They were literally bridges in times of violence, and in times where one of them and their people was very clearly the oppressed or second citizen, you know, the class citizen of the other. And that I kind of, it reignited me to understand in my personal lineage that this idea of being a bridge builder has been in me all along, you know, all along, and that capacity. And so when you and I share about like with the Maroon communities or, you know, Japanese reparations, or even the way Chinatown has also fought against having a prison in their, you know, or Philly Stadium here in Philadelphia. It's like that really emboldens me to have more confidence and conviction in what I can bring to the table. And it gives me energy and it gives me new ideas, right? How about for you?
Yeah, I what I'm hearing from you is like remembering the possibility. Like I often take like this work feels like remembering who we were and then remembering who we'll be. Because time is also a construct and not real. And so I think like I am so inspired by the ways that people created alternatives, or not even alternatives, just like different ways of being. So whenever you talk about like these we need to like make a new system, like get rid of capitalism, all the things, people are like, well, there's nothing else
to replace
we can do. Like it's always been like this. This is the only thing that's ever existed, which is a complete lie. Like there's been matrilineal societies, and then there have been these resistance communities that like set like the Maroon communities, for example, or the Beguines in Belgium, which were these women who set up, like they didn't want to, like from the Middle Ages, they didn't want to be beholden to men. And so they like created this whole community that had like sustenance and care, and they didn't have to answer to the church or husband. And so like, I think there's so many examples like that of that there are other ways, like the patriarchy and harmful oppressive capitalism are 100% not the only way that we can live together. And so looking back allows us to see examples that's like, oh, I can borrow the way that they governed themselves and apply it now, right? Like how they shared power. Oh, this is what they did. And then you can do the practice and modify it and continue to grow it. So yeah. I'm curious about the theme of the sojourn is sovereignty and solidarity. And how do you think like Lineage will root you in your personal sovereignty so that you can move into solidarity? Because we believe you have to do sovereignty first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, so one of the reasons why we're so excited to kick off these conversations and then also be opening up an experience that allows us to do these two things together is that, you know, in our conversations, Alli has been doing solidarity work for decades and has been in companies and nonprofits, like helping them with restoring trust and creating equitable workplaces. And on my end, I was also doing that work individually, but the last 10 years, I've really been focusing in on the personal sovereignty piece, like being able to, especially when you are no longer prescribing to, you're done with the shape shifting and you're done with trying to squeeze yourself into a mold that was never made for you. How do you own your voice? How do you lead from your being in the most empowered way, in a way that is going to serve you and others without you abandoning yourself or you over giving to the point that you burn out, which a lot of social impact leaders, and especially I think those of us who identify as, you know, BIPOC and especially like Black women, you know, have been over giving for a long time. And it's not sustainable, and it tends to lead to burnout and exhaustion. And so to me, the personal sovereignty piece is key to be able to own your value by owning your own story, like not letting all the other narratives that have been telling you who you are, the thing that defines who you are, right? Or any of the performance evaluations that might some invisible, weird, you know, language, you know, euphemistic language in there. It's like, no, you get to own your own leadership. And by looking back at your own, like looking back at your lineage or other ancestral lineages that have inspired you, can really help to root into something far, far deeper and stronger. And so just like we were talking about, for me to learn about the way like my ancestors who were immigrants here who had no citizenship for, you know, no actual citizenship for 75, 80 plus years, but they, you know, filled in these they filled in as cheap labor for a lot of things and then erased from history. For me to understand some of their ways of resisting, which come from I think, cultural tools, it's are wisdom things that can fortify my soul. There are things that actually can activate my mind, and then to combine them together, they're a combination in me to be able to gather with other people, right? It's like, so I feel like the more rooted I am in who I am, the bigger I can show up without it costing me something. Because I feel like if you are here to be a world changer on some level, and your work, or whether it's creative work, activism work, you know, business, whatever is your area of purpose that you are building in the world, you have to hold firm to your voice and your values and yourself, and you have to be fully expressed. And when you're fully expressed, I believe the energy, I am a certified energy coach with human design. You start to actually revitalize your cells and really healing your cells. But every time, like what Alli said, is when we are compromising ourselves by denying a part of our identity, we are not just, we're diluting our energy, we're diluting our worth in such incremental ways. Like we don't even realize it. It's almost like a penny at a time until you start to question yourself. And then that's when we become susceptible to then compromising, going with the status quo, which is why I feel like the lineage of people who did not follow the status quo and created can help be those roots for us.
Yeah, I love that. I think, like, for me, sovereignty is also about not needing approval of other people.
Yes.
You know, and so like connecting to your lineage and being proud of that and not having shame about that. Because I remember as a kid, like when we were learning about slavery in school, like I grew up in a predominantly white community, like feeling ashamed of that. Like I was embarrassed, but then, you know, I should not feel shame.
Right.
Now someone else should feel shame. You know what I mean? But now, you know, people often say like, I want to be Black in every lifetime. And I like feel that. It's like, I feel lucky that I get to be Black.
Yeah.
But like, I think sovereignty is like that knowing, that like solid knowing, like you're literally rooted to the earth, and that you deserve to be on this planet and that you're worthy. Because if you don't have that, you can't be in solidarity with other people. Like if you're worried about their approval, then I feel like a lot of these organizations, like leaders will get frustrated or worry about like when they get feedback from the ways that they're leading, and they're like, well, I'm trying to lead in these liberatory ways and they don't get it, da, da, da. And it's because they're seeking their approval. And one of my teachers, Christina Cleveland, said that you cannot be in solidarity if you're worried about the approval of the people that you're in solidarity with. You need to worry about, like, are you truly in solidarity with them? But sometimes people are going to have something to say, and you have to keep, and sometimes they're right? Like sometimes the feedback is about, oh, I need to adjust. Because if you're in solidarity, you realize like it doesn't diminish your value to receive feedback from somebody and adjust. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
some of the things people are asking for, I remember I was talking to a teacher, and they were really or a parent of a teacher, and she's frustrated because her son was having a hard time with a student who kept wearing her hat in class. And I said to her, just let him wear the hat. Like, what are you trying to control? Like, what is that about? Like, is it about you being dominating and controlling, right? And the opposite of liberatory? Or is there a real like safety reason? If it's about you being the adult and being able to, or you being the leader of the organization and being able to like, I'm supposed to be in charge, then you need to, if you want to be in solidarity, then you need to question that, I think.
One of the things that you just said around if you know you're seeking external validation, because I think that when you have personal sovereignty, that voice or that compulsion is minimized, right? Because you have that validation within yourself. Nobody has it 100% of the time. We know this because we're human beings, right? And so that's why but the more that we are rooted, to me, what you were saying about then the focus subconsciously, I think a lot of the time is you don't realize you're going in with good intentions to serve, because in your heart, you really do want this world. Right. So then the sort of the sadness of it is like, you know, and I see this even in the reparations work that I'm doing in mixed company, is that, you know, we're all sort of in different places in terms of our rootedness. And if we, you know, and I definitely have been in periods where, you know, external validation, it's like a constant practice to kind of, it's more about what I'm doing now instead of thinking less about imposter syndrome or whatever. It's more about rooting. If I'm rooting in, I don't have to worry as much. But I think with external validation, if in a community, everybody is kind of hoping for or wanting personal validation, that leads to challenges of power. It leads to challenges of sharing space. But, you know, in the third way space of imagining if we kind of shed leadership in this, you know, monolithical way into this idea that everyone, you know, has this beautiful combination. And things we've had to overcome, things we still have to fight against, but also these other resources that we have, the rootedness, the pride, the idea that we have that worth. I don't have to seek power from anybody else, or I'm not interested in that. And I actually have my own safety to say, hey, like I become curious. It's like my fear is replaced with curiosity when I am not feeling like I need to make myself safe or, you know, justify my existence or prove that I belong here, or prove that I'm a good person, or, you know, whatever is that going on. That is kind of, to me, it's like weather that is distorting then the work, which is why I do think that Lineage and Story, and I see like Laura Elliott, who joined us live, she is a writer, and we talk a lot about, you know, this idea of if you own your own narrative, you become more interested in other people's narratives.
Right.
Even wanting to, you know, there is more collective sharing that naturally happens. in that new space when you step into it, right?
Yeah. That validation piece resonates so much with me, even as my own practice, right? Like, you know this, like, when this idea of doing things like the Sojourn came about, I think when we started working together, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm just now doing it. And it was because I felt validated by the like strategic, quantitative work that kept me safe in the past. But I'm so excited about the Sojourn. And I just think about like, if I hadn't taken that leap, it would not exist. And so maybe we should talk about what we're creating, because I'm so excited about it. It's like an embodied, we've been studying these history and these stories, and it's like an embodied way to learn and study a story in Philadelphia. I'm not from Philadelphia, but it was the first place I lived as an adult. So I have a lot of affinity for Philly. I lived there for 9 years, and I think it's a great town. So connected to the birth of this country. So it feels like important.
Yes. So those of you who may be joining us, if this is the first time you've been on a Freedom Friday call, we want to talk to you about what this Sojourn experience is. So this, so we've now talked about how there is really like, there's hidden treasure in our ancestors and our ancestral lineage that can strengthen ourselves and our communities of solidarity, or where we are, building, worlds where everybody can thrive. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I hope you take away from this is that, like our ancestors, we don't have to wait for permission from a system to start creating more conditions of freedom for ourselves, like whatever that means to you, whatever that means to me on a personal level, family, community, and beyond, depending on where that scope is that your soul is called to. And so we created this experience to help us step into and bring together, like bring a new identity for ourselves to become sojourners, and sojourners who are people who are embodied, mind, body, and spirit, who are here to be able to belong to ourselves and to each other. And a big part of it has to do with actually having a 6-month journey to start to build an embodied practice of what this could look like for ourselves and with each other in a small group. Mm-hmm. And we're going to, what this is about is, so we're looking for 22 sojourners. We're looking for 22 people who are, you're ready to stop rationing your own joy. You're ready to stop over giving to the point that your cup is no longer full because there's just so many fires and things going on in the world. And you feel like that, you're serving and pouring into teams or your family or your community, but you're feeling that it's not going to be sustainable. And you wish that someone poured back into you. This is why the personal sovereignty with solidarity is important. And we've designed this experience to help you feel nourished and inspired and empowered to be able to do the kind of work that your soul envisions. So if you're a founder, a coach, a leader, a creator, an activist, and you're building something that is really designed to be people-centered, helping to contribute in your own way to an equitable world. And in particular, if you are a BIPOC leader or creative or activist, know that we really designed this first and foremost for you to be able to truly be nourished and have liberatory practices that are really supporting you to live and be fully expressed in the times we live in today, right? As a difference maker. And if you have been racialized as white, like we talked about, you have too, and obviously who have lots to contribute, and you're curious and you're called to build communities of care. That's what's in your DNA. And you're comfortable in spaces where whiteness isn't centered, that we also welcome you to join, because the idea is to create this beautiful container where whiteness and patriarchy and those systems aren't there holding us.
Yeah.
Right. And Yeah. Did you want to add on here, Allison?
Yeah, comfort with discomfort too. So like you might be uncomfortable because whiteness, you're used to whiteness being centered, but you're okay with that and you're just gonna work through that. You can come too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the reality is for all of us and why we're creating this experience is because, you know, if you're carrying weight like we've been also of this moment, this era that we're living in 2026, and you've been looking for solutions and for actual proof that another way is possible, then you came to the right place. And this is where we're at, creating an immersive experience around the one community that we can really reconnect with and witness and learn from in this first one. So we're not talking about more frameworks, matrices, you know, strategies. We are talking about engaging your soul and your body and wisdom to fortify your work. So you may be experiencing that tools that you've been using, whether things have been, you know, weaponized, for example, or that past conventional strategies don't move the needle the way you do, and you want to see proof of where communities have thrived, where freedom has been denied. You know, and that it's not about another strategy. In fact, it might be something altogether different. And you really are done, especially if you're a BIPOC person who's been giving it all. You know, you're just done with rationing your own joy at the expense of others, and you're done with extractive labor, right? And you really are seeking some community. This can be really isolating work because we know the current systems are designed to isolate us from each other. So it's an opportunity as we think about this six-month sojourn to have more commune time, to build meaningful connections and potentially partners with like-souled individuals so that we can dream together, we can support each other through, you know, the messy, the up and down together, and, you know, hold each other up and help each other, you know, imagine past some of the places where there are real blocks. And so one of the things that the Sojourn is building is a bridge that no one else really is when we're talking about an actual experience, like we've talked about the sort of the idea of personal sovereignty being really important. And then, you know, in order to do solidarity, this is a really unique place for you to build that in a way that is new and unconventional. It's really rooted in a lot of Alli's work, as we said, that built over the years. And so, Alli, would you like to kind of share about what these, I don't know if you want to call them pillars or if you want to call them just, you know, embodiment pieces, but I think that the resources we're drawing on are a little more different than the ones we would traditionally look to.
Yeah, I think the one is like the ancestral blueprints that we're drawing on, because like, and we're going to talk more about this. It's like the 1838 Black Philadelphia community is one. I lived in Philly for 9 years, and at the time, no one really knew about this amazing community that had built alternative financial systems, alternative housing systems, had its own religious system, like all these things to care for, harbor free Black people and like enslaved people. And so I think like that's one of the big ones, which is like the history and ancestral lineage. And then the luxury part. I mean, I love a beautiful
Black Freedom Friday if you missed it and want to go back. So go ahead, Alli.
Yeah, it's just like this idea of that we all deserve beautiful things and spaciousness, and like this was built with that in mind. For sure.
Yeah. And so there's, you know, these three pieces of luxury, you know, Alli has described luxury as a birthright. And there's something about a luxurious experience that your nervous system relaxes and
Mhm.
creativity and vision can expand from. So this is something we've actually built into the Sojourn so that you're poured into, you're seen, you're so cared for. You're not sitting there worrying about other things. Like it's really like you get to be a special guest, right?
Mhm.
In this experience so that you can be your most visionary self,
Mhm.
rest and rest into your brilliance. And
Mhm.
then we're going to be, and we'll share a little bit right now, like our very first sojourn is going to be in Philadelphia, and we'll share some details in a minute. But really what we're looking at, this is a 6-month experience with an in-person immersive experience in Philadelphia in late April, and it will create those connections together so that we are creating rituals, offering tools in our virtual gatherings to help you get rooted in your own sovereignty through
Mhm.
ancestry, through your own individual human design and your own unique energetic DNA, and how to work with that so that you are leading from your being in your own way in the most impactful way possible, transformational possibilities. And then also, the collective care piece. Because we've seen that most of the time, if you go to a retreat, it's focused on oneself, or you go to an offsite, a team retreat, and it's all focused in on the shared. The
Mhm.
sojourn is really meant to do all three. And
Mhm.
so this is where you're building roots to yourself. We're building together in collaboration, and then creating space for you when you go back to your Monday morning life, that
Mhm.
you can still preserve
Mhm.
spaciousness within yourself
Mhm.
to nurture the seeds, ideas, audacious dreams that pop up as a result of being on this 6-month journey with us.
Mhm. And I can talk a little bit about the 6-month journey.
Yeah.
So, because it's not just the day, it really is intended to be this really deep and embodied way to study yourself, and then also like how you can learn from history and our lineage to be in solidarity. So it starts with in August with pre-sojourn gathering. This is where we'll be making some intentions and sort of gathering, setting up belonging, getting to know some of the people in the cohort. So that's really about belonging and intention setting. Then we have the in-person event. That's the day in Philadelphia where we actually get to walk and witness, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Afterwards, I don't know about you, but a lot of times, like, you have thoughts. I'm an external processor, so I don't often have it later, but like sometimes you like have thoughts about what you witness a few weeks later, and so we have a session that's specifically for that to help people alchemize and internalize what they're learning, and share that with each other. And then, well, the next session will be on sovereignty, and y'all are so lucky because, as Steph mentioned, she's a human design person, and she's going to be doing a sovereignty session on with some human design. Can you share a little bit more about this, Steph? I'm so excited about this one.
Yeah, for those of you who are unfamiliar with human design, it is the science of differentiation. And it really actually shows you, like, if you had wished you had had an operating manual or a map to the way your body's energies work, it is actually a confluence of multiple ancient sciences with modern science. And you really understand how you understand your innate gifts, like what you're energetically drawn towards and pick up, and how to use your energy in a way that allows you to create and interact with others in a way that is about with more ease and more joy and more grounding with less effort. And so everybody has their own unique blueprint within themselves. And so if you join us on the sojourn, you're actually going to get a blueprint of what your own energetic system looks like and what your gifts look like, and we're going to be able to share them with each other. And then you're going to learn after you first and you're going to learn how to really harness and leverage your own energy in the most optimal, thriving way as you're pouring into these seed ideas that you have, so that it really allows you to have more flow state doing some of your most audacious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And after, I'm so excited. It's going to be great. Like, to get that blueprint, it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for the Sojourners and me, because I am also on this journey. After that session, I'll be doing a session on solidarity. This is now that you've thought about how you can be rooted in your own brilliance with less effort. I love that idea, less effort, or like more ease. We'll think about then, what do you want to do as you move forward and act in solidarity? Because I believe collective liberation has to be about solidarity, and how none of us are free until all of us are free. So it's really important to think about, like, how do you want to lead, and what your vision is. So then we'll do that. We might have a bonus session. We're thinking about adding another one to, like, really focus on commitments, and what do you like, how do we think about what are we going to say that we're going to do that the rest of the cohort is going to help us hold us accountable to that, right? And then we'll end with a celebration. So just to reflect on our 6-month journey together, and celebrate as we launch with more sovereignty and solidarity.
Yes. And along the way, so we have these gatherings so that we don't lose sight of the insights that you have, the seeds that you have, and you're building progressive tools for yourself, right? Within yourself, within what's been inspired from the ancestral witnessing that we're doing. And so this is about creativity that is really sourced from a deep place, and sovereignty sourced from a deep place, so that when it comes to doing, and then the accountability, right? Like making promises to each other. So you've got a community that is like rooting for you, or maybe you end up cross-pollinating with each other to really bring the fruit to life that you really want to create. Stephen Pressfield has a book called Turning Pro, and he talks about resistance. And so resistance, one of the things that he suggests is the more something matters to you that you want to do, the more resistance you're going to have against it, which is why community matters, like souled community matters. And so along the way with this journey, we're also having a private community where, as sojourners, we're here to commune with each other, support each other. If you have relationships that you have built along the way, and having buddies and things to be able to do brave things, it's not something that we feel like the self-determination myth of America, I think, is also part of the things that can help us shrink back, and we're here to expand forward.
Should we talk about like the actual
Yeah.
No, okay. Let's talk about what's happening in Philly.
Yeah. So this first cohort, the ancestral immersion experience, is happening in Philadelphia, the birthplace of freedom, as well as the birthplace of so much in terms of when you talk about the free Black community and all of the systems and things that were created. But so in Philadelphia, just want you imagine for the day, or if you come for 1 or 3 days, we have a private home called the Diplomat in Old City that is our abode and our place there's living rooms, there's roof decks, there's individual rooms, there's some shared rooms. So you can decide if you would like to come and stay overnight for 2 nights for extra luxury, extra resting, extra dreaming and gathering, or you can decide to be a day sojourner where you come in for the day and we'll have breakfast and dinners here, as well as a home for you to come back to and rest. So you get full access to this 4-star accommodation that is only for us.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have 1 minute before, and I know that some people might have to hop.
Yes.
The day is a chance to really witness what's from the 1838 community, and then we'll be getting a chance to process in a more embodied way than we usually do. So we won't be just in our heads intellectualizing. So then we'll get a chance to make collective art together, and then commune together over food, like you were talking about, Steph.
Yeah. Exactly. And the goal is that you will leave the virtual experience feeling nourished physically, energetically, and more brave based on what we learn about with the Free Black Philadelphians who created a city within a city, and then a squad ongoing in our virtual gatherings that will help nurture each other and the seeds and the things that we're called to build.
There are two options, and I put some links in chat for people so that you can look at this in more detail after that. But there's the day sojourner and there's the 3-day sojourner or the overnight sojourner. So if you want to spend time with us for the day, we have all these wonderful things that you'll see on the side, like a private tour, a private chef. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about the chef. It's gonna be delicious.
Yeah.
Or you can be an overnight sojourner or 3-day sojourner where you come and sort of land with us at the Diplomat. And so there's some payment plans that are available. You can set up through Klarna. And so if you do that for, say, 6 months, the payment plan for the day sojourner is about, what is it, Steph? I can't see.
$14.99.
And then the Klarna plan would be?
Starts at $18.49 to $23.99, depending on the room and the level of luxury that you want. And
yes.
Yeah. And so we also have cash flow. You can create a cash flow friendly plan of your own through Klarna. And so that would mean, for example, if you were deciding to immerse in the luxury day, it would be, you could do it like, 6 payments of $249 monthly. And then if you were staying overnight, then that would be starting at around $367 a month for that as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And you can decide what your payment, I've used Klarna before and I've spread things out over a year. So that's also, if you wanted to lower your payments, that's also available.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're a little bit over time, but thank you all for joining us, whether live or watching afterwards. And so if you are interested and want to learn more, we know we went really fast about the day. We have some links to chat with either one of us, as well as a link just to look at our website that goes into detail about the sojourn. I'm so excited about this because as it continues to grow and develop, as we're birthing it, I'm like, I want to go on this.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. There is really a lot of things special, both in the virtual gatherings as well as, it's a rare opportunity to feed into yourself, build community around, and be inspired by having a private tour of history that is not widely available on the internet. A private creative studio opportunity inside of museum. I don't think, and you're going to be able to build some things that really support you from inside the museum, and having a private chef also for meals, and just that combination, and also of the people that will be there. It is really just something that to be nurtured, braver, hopeful, energized, to be able to really create our own maroon community. And essentially over the next 6 months, as we know, America is pretty bananas, but we are, it's going to be really magical. So even if you're just curious and you just want to have a chat about it, we'd love to learn about what you are experiencing right now. What are the areas? Do you have visions that you feel like have been on a shelf for too long? Do you feel like your cup just can't seem to get filled because people are tugging at you? We want to learn about that, and then to share with you, and then discover, one-on-one on a call with Alli or me, if this feels like the right aligned community and experience to support you, to really let go and be able to reclaim yourself and be in connection and solidarity with others.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Would love to hear if you were watching this afterwards, please put comments in the events, whether you're on YouTube or in LinkedIn Live, because we'll see those and we can engage with each other. But we'll see you in 2 weeks. The next Freedom Friday is about personal sovereignty, which is, I can't wait. So
Yes.
she has so
You do
many.
not want to miss it. You do not want to miss it.
Yeah.
I am so excited to really pour into you guys for you to feel we have so much inside ourselves that we're not even aware of. But once we get aware of it, we can start to use it. Just like our ancestors who are here to hold us up, here to guide us. Like they're building alongside us. We just need to connect with them too. So I'm excited. So come in 2 weeks. And yes, look forward to seeing you on a call as well, if this feels right for you.
Awesome. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.